So, while I'm doing this and doing the first test run, let's do a story time. So, once upon a time, 1 year ago, we got a cat, and his name is Stormy. Stormy the cat. So 1 year ago today, we went and collected Stormy and took him home, and we got the wee boy Stormy. I should show a picture of Stormy to illustrate my point, shouldn't I? Just a little story time, guys. Just chill, just chill. You'll get your fucking boy 4, chill. Here he is on my bike. The big bastard. The bastard. Anyway. One problem we run into is he is a very high energy cat. He's incredibly high energy. It's because he's a Bengal crossed with his British short hair. Bengals are very high energy because they're mixed with a crossbred with a wild cat. So that they're not fully domesticated, so that they have weird behaviors. Sometimes he like squares up to us and he wants to fight us, and he goes this rah sound, and he really slowly walks towards us. He's about to pounce on us if we move too close to him. He is an absolute arsehole sometimes. I think in a weird way, I kind of like how weird and different he is. He is nothing like the average cat. I've never had a cat square up to me before. Anyway. So we bought him a harness to put him on a lead and go on walks with him because we thought we'll find a way of burning his energy off. But we didn't want him to go and roam by himself because we realized he's an expensive cat. He's a fucking fancy cat. So I didn't really want him to go and roaming everywhere because we'd end up in a situation we'd lose him, and it'd be painful to lose like a cat we paid 500 quid for, you know? Wildcat Stormy. Yeah, it's ironic because we didn't actually call him Stormy because he had his personality. We called him Stormy because he had really dark colors. You know, big storm because he had nice dark colors, and it'd be kind of like, I don't know, storm weather, storm clouds, you know. But it turns out he's a complete prick, which kind of makes his personality. So his name is more relevant than ever, I suppose. So anyway, we tried to get him on a harness and have him in the garden, but it didn't work. He still had too much energy. He'd be annoying. He'd climb on top of things. He'd scratch. He'd bite. He'd square up to us. He'd be overall a complete arsehole. I've never heard of it before. Catfish. I've never heard of it. So we couldn't get enough energy out of him, so he'd still be an arsehole. So eventually we decided, all right, fair enough. As much as we don't want to do this, we're going to have to let him roam. So we let him out. And he most of the time, he would go out, have fun, and come back. I'll be totally honest with you. I really like him. I like him. I like him as a cat. I think he's really cool. He's become part of the family. So I really like him because of that. So when he's out and about, I worry about him. I really do. But anyway, long story short, when we let him out a few times, he just wouldn't come back. One time we let him out, and we found him under a car the next morning at like 12 o'clock. And he clearly maybe he got lost or something. I don't know. He just didn't come back. Then we didn't worry about him for a while. And then he did it again. But he disappeared for 2 fucking days. I thought we'd lost him. He disappeared. And we were looking all over for him. And we ended up finding him on the other side of a dual carriageway. Like just before sunset, you know, and we felt like we found him just out of fluke, like it was a complete guess. Cats like to disappear sometime. Yeah, I guess so, but he's an expensive cat, and he was really young at the time. He was like 6 months old, so we were really worried about him. Well, we got him and brought him back, and then at that point we decided we were going to buy a tracker, like a GPS tracker. Have you ever seen these like really big bulky brick things that go around their neck? We bought it for him, and it was like, keep an eye on him. It's actually kind of cool, actually. I can press a button, I can see where he is. It takes a few seconds to lock into him. And other bonuses, too. You can press a light button, so it lights up his collar, and also a button that makes a sound effect, too, so we can actually automatically find him when we need to. It's actually really cool tech, actually. It's way more advanced than I thought it was going to be. There's a few issues with it. Sometimes the signal's a bit shitty because it's using GPS, and the phone signal's a bit iffy where we live. And sometimes, too... The battery's a bit iffy sometimes. Sometimes it'll last for 2 straight days. Sometimes you get a day and a half out of it, and it goes a bit weird. It's not perfect, but I suppose it's best. Just keeps us peace of mind. Whenever we want to find him, we can go get him, you know? Male cats sometimes leave for up to a week. Yeah, especially if you don't neuter them. But we made sure we were good pet owners. We made sure we neutered him as soon as we could. We got him sorted as soon as we could. It's actually kind of fun now, I think about it, to look where he's been and where he's gone and like keep track of him and whatnot. But here comes another problem. There's another but to this. We kept losing his collar. So cat collars, if you're not familiar with them, they don't clip in completely. And if they put enough pressure on the collar themselves, it unclips them. It's a safety mechanism because cats like to go in trees and over fences, and they don't want to get stuck and hang themselves on their own fucking collars. You don't want that to happen. So if they pull too hard on it and tug on it, it clips off. And it did many, many different times. It clipped off in someone's garden, under a fence, behind a tree. Oh, it was such a nuisance because when it clipped off in someone's garden, we had to keep knocking on their door. And the problem too is when you tell someone, you go through the list of things. You go, our cat was out last night. He's lost his collar. It's got a GPS tracker on it, and the GPS tracker is in your garden. Can we collect it? They look at you blank because a lot of them are boomers. They don't get it. They don't quite understand what GPS means. They don't quite understand. They think it's a cat that's missing in the garden. And they just don't understand what you're telling them. So they get really confused. And some of them are very polite and they're just like, oh, go in your garden. You know where to get it, whatever. I don't care. Like a lot, the last guy I got it from the garden, he said something to me like, oh, I thought it was a cat. And I'm like, no, cat tracker. Anyway, last night, Stormy, the bastard that he is, lost his goddamn collar again. What was really annoying is he lost the tracker over 3 gardens. So when we go on the GPS tracker and look for it, GPS trackers I think are accurate within 10 meters, I think. Accuracy of GPS. What's the accuracy of GPS? I think it was about 5 to 10 meters, wasn't it? It's actually not that accurate. It's about 10 meters. And for the most part, 10 meters sounds not too bad. But if you're in a very small, tightly packed area, 10 meters is actually quite a broad range. It depends on the quality too. And the GPS signal, sorry, the data signal in our area is really piss poor. So sometimes it's really bad. Well, anyway, it showed it right on a fucking fence. Right on a fence. Between 3 gardens. So we had to go through, well, I did anyway, go through the 3 gardens and speak to the owners of each fucking one. From my past experiences of speaking to neighbours, it wasn't actually that bad. For the most part, they're actually okay. They're a bit confused, but they understand and they let you collect it, whatever. Anyway, the first one I went to the other day, it's a really posh house, by the way, probably like a £500,000 house. And this is why I get anxious, because it's like these people are up their own asses. They own a very nice house. They've got one of those Ring special, you know those doorbells that are like smart doorbells. I press it and I'm like, this is going to be a nightmare. I can feel it's going to be a nightmare. And the guy answers and he's a bit reserved. And once again, I say to him, cat, went in your garden, lost his collar. Can I retrieve the GPS collar from your garden? And once again, they look at you and they're like blank stare, like, garden? They never get it. They never fucking get it. Okay. Who was I? Yeah, they're really confused. The Ring doorbells. You have one. Yeah, if I own my own place, which I will eventually at some point, I will get one as well. They're really, really good. The guy then, with his confusion, just says, all right, no worries, I'm in the middle of something. And then he leaves. And I thought he was being a little bit passive-aggressive, a bit rude. But in all fairness, I get it in a way. Some random guy who's never seen before, with a bicycle helmet on and bicycle gear on, has knocked on my door at 11 a.m. in the morning to ask about a cat GPS tracker thing. Of course, it's a bit weird. But anyway, the guy opens his garden and goes, yeah, go find it, whatever, go find it. So at that point, I'm like, oh my God, he's so kind. Oh my goodness, thank goodness. Literally dodged a bullet there. I thought he was going to be a bit mean, a bit of an arsehole, a bit of a dick, but he actually was totally cool with it. He was about my age, actually, by the way. Anyway, he said couldn't find it in the garden. Couldn't find it. So that's one out of 3 ticked off. Next door's garden. Oh my God. She was salty, man. She was so salty. I knocked on the door and I was like, it says the same thing again. Instead of saying, can you look in the garden? I said, I can look in the garden. And the minute I finished that sentence, she went, no, you cannot look in my garden. Straight away, like, oh, really adamant, really on it. I was like, sure. Can you look in the garden? I felt like I kept my cool. I was reacting nice and calm and cool. And she still gave me this look of like, what? I'll look. So I'm like, oh my God, that could have not gone any worse. Oh my goodness, I never met this person before. Is that really your first reaction? Holy shit. So I walk up the drive to get away because I'm realizing she's probably like getting all defensive and shit. Because she's like, I'm on her power property and I've interrupted her and I've pressed a super special sexy doorbell, you know. And then she comes back and she goes, we didn't find your cat in the garden. Your cat's not in the garden. And I'm like, we're not looking for my cat. We're looking for a cat GPS tracker collar. She was like, there's nothing in the garden. It's an empty garden. I'll speak to my husband when he gets home. I'm like, I live at X address. Can you just, if you find something, can you give it to me? I was like, ugh. You see, this is what I said to my girlfriend earlier today. Like, these boomers, man, they're constantly on Facebook all the time saying how, like, neighborly love. We should love our neighbors. We should connect with our neighbors more often, and we should interact more often. Where's that old spirit of the community gone? And when you knock on the door, you get responses like that. Fucking wankers. Anyway. Anyway, at that point, I'm probably thinking, all right, there's a possibility it might be in that garden. It may not be in that garden. Let's go for the third garden. The third garden was like completely other end of the estate, the way they all connect, you know? I know, Stormy's such a bastard. He's just asleep right now in that corner of me. So I go to the third garden, and it's really open. It's got this gate on the front, and I knock on the door, and I can't hear anything. But luckily, it's actually in the front garden where the door actually is. So I get the collar out, get the tracker out, and I say enable the sound effect, and it plays like a high-pitched whining noise, and I hear it immediately, and I'm like, it's in this garden, it's fucking in this garden. And the owners of the garden had like, I don't know how to describe it. It's that stuff that crawls at walls and stuff. It's like that really, I can't describe it. The leaves are really thick and they're like yellow and green colored and it like crawls at walls and stuff. And it's all matted. It's like this massive, really thick, dense bush with these leaves on. And I could hear it. Kind of like vines, I suppose. Let me Google and see if I can find a picture. Yeah, it actually was vines. It was vines. I was right. Yeah, you're right. No, so you're right. It's these. But it had grown so dense, it almost formed a wall of them. And I'm trying to jab my hand inside to try and get inside. But I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck's inside here? There could be a snake in here. Unlikely, but it could be. And I could hear the sound in there. I'm jabbing my hand in there. And at this point, I'm like, this person hasn't answered their door. I'm in their garden, on my knees, on their lawn, jabbing my hand into their vines like I'm masturbating the vines. And at this point, I'm like, if they turn up back, this is going to look so cringe. I'm not going to be able to say, it's not what it looks like. So I end up leaving. I feel confident. I feel confident that I know where the tracker is. But I can't retrieve it until I spoke to the owner because I just feel so uncomfortable, like being in someone's garden and masturbating their vines, fisting their vines, without them actually seeing what I'm doing. Anyway, there we go. Story time is over. Okay, you can chill now. You guys in the chat are getting really salted. You can chill. Do it tonight. Yeah, I'm going to have to just knock on their door again. And they'll answer and they'll be like, I'll give them the same story. I'll be like, GPS, cat, collar, tracker. And they'll be like, cat? They never get it. They never get it. I think I might just show... I think I might just show, like, a picture of it. And just like, this is what I'm collecting. It's a tracker collar. And I feel like that... I'll be masturbating the ivy tonight. Yes, I will, probably. Oh, God damn it. So you didn't get... No. The vines were so dense and thick over the fence, and it was in between the vines and the fence, but the vines were like super dense. They'd grown over years and years and years, and they'd form like a thick mesh in between the fence. So the GPS tracker was lodged between the two of them, but it was so dense I just couldn't get my hand in there, so I couldn't get in. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do, because I might have to cut some of it, but then they're going to get all irate with me. I'm like, I beg your pardon, what you're doing? And this is the icing on the cake. Do you want the big twist to this story? Even though the story's not even over yet. Do you want the big twist to this story? We're not even meant to have a cat. We're renting. We've not told the landlord we've got a cat. So when I ever want to knock on these doors, I want to say I live at X address at X street. But I can't tell them that, because I realize they might know the landlord, and they might go, hang on a minute, your tenant at number X on X street keeps talking about this cat he keeps losing. So I want to be as like open with my neighbors as possible to like diffuse the situation, but I shouldn't even have a cat to begin with. Oh, it's such a nightmare. It's such a nightmare. Ugh.